Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Zach, and today I'm with my power panel.
Xenia Semenova.
Riley Livingston.
Pauline Buñay.
And today we are joined by special guests Dylan and Blake Miskovsky, who you may have seen on their segment Talking Pictures. Well, it's Oscar season, and the Academy Awards are going to be hosted by Jimmy Kimmel once again, and will be held on March 10th. And they will be celebrating all things film, which leads me into today's question. What's your favorite movie?
Well, I know I like Hitchcock and I know I like horror films, and in October, I don't watch any other type of film. It's just the horror gauntlet, and that's it. So we're going to talk about Psycho. You got Vera Miles, you got Janet Leigh, you got Anthony Perkins doing a wonderful performance. I mean, Psycho is just a classic. You gotta admit it. And horror is like one of my favorites, even though there are so many bad horror.
And
movies,
isn't it the one of the first films to feature the shower scene?
There's so many films that do it afterwards, but Psycho was the classic. Psycho was the initiator, if you will.
How many parodies have you seen of that shower scene? Let's be honest.
The
Seen it
Bates
done in
Motel.
Crucifixion.
The Bates Motel is also the TV show that was made by Psycho.
Psycho definitely
it's so
gave
good.
way to a whole stream of stuff. I mean, Norman Bates became like a Michael Myers in and of himself, just sequel after sequel until they stopped making those.
Xenia, what about you?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of 80s movies. So one of my favorite is Indiana Jones, Back to the Future. And I love young Harrison Ford. It's my style.
So what's not to like?
Yeah. So I love The Working Girl. I love The Working Girl and this. Yeah, something jackets like this.
I've never seen that movie. I think I've heard of it though. It's good. Yeah, I'll have to put it on my list. Yeah. I have a lot of favorite movies because I can't pick just one. And I also like TV a lot more than I like movies because it's so much more digestible. But some classics are the 2008 Pride and Prejudice, one of my favorites.
Wonderful stuff.
The original Little Woman, not the new one.
Yeah.
Nothing against Greta.
Catherine Hepburn?
No, not that one.
Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder. Yes. So that's not the original probably,
Christian
but
Bale is in that.
yes, Christian Bale's in that one too. He's Laurie. He's awesome as Laurie.
Yes.
But I like a good indie movie, and I wanted to share Garden State, which was written and directed by Zach Braff from Scrubs, and he stars in it. And it's got Natalie Portman, I believe, in it too. It's really good. It's very different, very out there. It's just like a good kind of feel-good indie movie. So that was one that came to mind, and I was like, oh, I really enjoyed that movie.
I don't know. For me, it seems like my favorites. I have to divide them up into sections because there's just too many good ones I've seen out there to be my favorites. I think probably in the horror genre, Friday the 13th is my favorite. In horror, I love the the slasher genre.
Okay.
Now, whether that may be concerning, we don't know.
No, of course it's concerning. Chucky's concerning.
You love the slasher genre. If I talk about a kid at work that got a bloody nose, you start like turning a different shade of color, and you can't listen to what I'm saying. I think it's hilarious.
I know I'm double-sided in many ways, but one of my favorites is Twister. I love Twister.
Philip Seymour in that?
Yes, he was.
You're waiting for the new one probably too, yeah?
Yes, and I had spoken about it in our last Let's Talk about the Super Bowl, how it transported me back to 1996, which, by the way, you can find that also already readily available. So, I refuse to accept pretty much any other tornado-related film other than Twister. And if somebody comes to me and talks about Sharknado, I will. Pauline, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, man.
I don't want to get into legal issues here, okay?
Less is more. Less is better than Sharknado.
No, I don't know. I mean, my favorite movie. I thought that we were talking about 80s movies, but I think that if we were talking about favorite movies, it's going to be Anna Karenina. From the same director from
Pride and Prejudice.
Yes. I love that movie. But usually my favorite movies usually changes, and lately I've watched Poor Things, and automatically became one of my favorite movies. So it was like, I don't know if you have watched it already, but it's a crazy movie. Don't watch it with your parents. That would be very uncomfortable.
I've heard that.
Yeah, no, don't.
Poor Things, it's called.
Poor Things.
Emma Stone.
Things. Yes.
Emma Stone.
Yes,
Transportation with a lot of nude scenes. So don't.
It's like
Don't watch it.
Saltburn, something like this.
Sorry.
It's like Saltburn or
No, it's about like it's way better than that movie in my opinion. It's like well, I cannot tell you. I'll
secret.
tell you. Imagine a Frankenstein but with a woman.
Oh,
Oh.
this is nice.
Something like
Interesting.
that. But it's
Yeah.
like a baby and the baby's brain in a woman's body.
Interesting.
That is a good way of describing that film.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to put it on my list.
Yeah, it's very
Sounds
good.
cool.
Yours?
I've always been a sucker for the year 1939. That's the year that Wizard of Oz came out. It's a classic among all classics. And then Gone with the Wind came out. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington came out, and Stagecoach came out, which made John Wayne a star and made westerns actually profitable at the time. So I would say my film randomizer slot machine wheel, where you randomize it and you spin it, that really did turn me on to westerns as a genre, and how quite possibly every action movie is a western in some way, and
When you distill it down to
when
its
you really
most
distill it
basic
down to its most
elements.
basic elements. Fast and Furious is just westerns with cars. But
Really?
yeah, I mean, if you think about it to its most basic elements, it couldn't be anything else. If it's an action, adventure, comedy, drama, romance,
It's
has to be a western. And Stagecoach was quite possibly the beginning of that genre's
At its best,
inception
for sure.
at its best. And there's some insane stunts in that. And you mentioned Raiders of the Lost Ark. Spielberg took a stunt from Stagecoach and put it in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and
Did it with a car.
did it with a car, and made a nice tribute out of it. And it's a really iconic moment from both of those
I
films.
think the unit western that I know is the Back to Future, the third part, and that's it.
Oh yeah, that was,
Yes.
there you go.
Yes,
Bring
yes,
it
that's the
full
only western
circle.
you've ever seen.
There's a
Yes.
western right there.
Yes,
and,
it's-
and they filmed it in the same place they filmed Stagecoach. That's
Oh,
how iconic.
Oh, look at that.
They
So there you
animated
go.
it in cars.
They animated
Oh,
Mountain
yes.
Valley in
Exactly
cars,
what
so
you
there you
wanna
go.
say.
Yeah.
You have that raised hand so long
All
time.
right. All right, well, that's this edition of Let's Talk. My thanks to both Dylan and Blake for joining us on the panel today. If you want to join in on our fun and tell us your favorite movies, comment down below. You can also find us on Zactac Productions for the full conversation. Until next time, keep talking and listen to each other. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.